The Taliban vows they've changed. America faces a bus driver shortage, and an NFL team requires fans to be vaccinated. That and more on this week's headlines. Welcome to America Uncovered. I'm Chris Chappell. The Taliban vowed to respect women's rights. Wait, really? That's good. What's that, Shelley? Oh, it turns out the Taliban vowed to respect women's rights, but within Islamic law. That's less good. Women could actually have lots of rights within Islamic law. The issue is how Islamic law is interpreted. Historically, the Taliban have interpreted women's rights in Islamic law to be the right to do what they're told and be happy about it. Kidding. The Taliban doesn't care if women are happy. Not that you'd even be able to tell if they were. The Taliban also said they would forgive those who resisted them or worked with the former government. This is part of a publicity campaign to convince the world they've changed. But maybe they really have changed. Maybe the Taliban is woke now. The woke Taliban always asks for people's pronouns. This way, if someone is non-binary, the Taliban knows to say, stone them to death. The woke Taliban doesn't care about transgender women competing in women's sports teams, since women aren't allowed to play sports. And critical race theory doesn't need to be taught in schools because the woke Taliban doesn't see race. They only see infidels that must be beheaded. This week, President Biden defended his decision to pull troops out of Afghanistan.
So what's happened? Afghanistan political leaders gave up and fled the country. The Afghan military collapsed, sometime without trying to fight. If anything, the developments of the past week reinforced that ending U.S. military involvement in Afghanistan now was the right decision.
First of all, this excuse is one step away from being, well, maybe Afghanistan wouldn't have been invaded if it didn't dress that way. It was asking for it. Second of all, when I see footage like this, the first thing that comes to mind isn't, yep, we definitely made the right decision. Also, U.S. military involvement in Afghanistan hasn't ended, since U.S. troops will need to remain in the region to evacuate U.S. citizens. And there may be as many as 15,000 Americans stuck in Afghanistan. President Biden also authorized $500 million in aid relief to Afghan refugees amid the Taliban takeover. Oh, I'm sure that will help. Because what problem can't be fixed with loads of money? Oh, right, Afghanistan. But not everyone is mad about the situation in Afghanistan. Some are just disappointed, such as former President George W. Bush, who said he and former First Lady Laura Bush feel deep sadness over the events unfolding in Afghanistan. I can relate. I also feel deep sadness whenever a situation I caused leads to a quagmire that lasts 20 years, costs trillions of dollars, and countless lives, all to end up in the exact situation where it started. I mean, who hasn't been there? But I don't want to be a total downer. I think it's my responsibility to offer some hope and perspective. As bleak as things seem in Afghanistan, at least we can all take a small bit of comfort in remembering that Donald Rumsfeld is dead. More after the break. Welcome back. Florida Senator Rick Scott suggested invoking the 25th Amendment to remove President Joe Biden from office over his handling of the situation in Afghanistan. This would be an outrageous suggestion if Democrats hadn't recommended invoking the 25th Amendment every time President Trump misspelled something in a tweet. Look, he wrote healing when he meant to write healing. He's not fit to hold office. It seems every tactic Democrats use against Republicans is just a spoiler alert for tactics Republicans will end up using against Democrats, which really makes my job easier. I can just copy and paste all the jokes I write now and reuse them in 2 years when I cover how, after taking control of the Senate in the midterm elections, Republicans are trying to nuke the filibuster. Time really is a flat circle. Rick Scott's suggestion to remove Biden from office was met with backlash and demands that Rick Scott be removed from office. This is ridiculous because, first of all, to remove Scott from office, you'd need to destroy all 7 of his Horcruxes. And for those wondering, the 7 Horcruxes of a Florida man are bath salts, humidity, a window taped up during a hurricane, a Publix supermarket chicken tender sub, an alligator tooth necklace, a second-place trophy from a wet t-shirt contest, and Jimmy Buffett. And second of all, you can't remove someone for just being a massive, slimy hypocrite, unless you live in California. The Biden administration announced it has approved permanently increasing food stamp benefits by more than 25% over pre-pandemic levels. This move is intended to give the more than 42 million Americans on this program the ability to purchase healthier foods, which are typically more expensive. And while I love the sentiment, I'm not sure how well this will work. Because if you give me extra cash for my food budget, I'm not going to use it to buy a bushel of kale. I'm going to use it to buy a bushel of Twinkies. If you really want Americans to be healthy, forget food stamps. We should invest in creating broccoli that tastes like Baconators. Come on, science. Quit fiddling around with this global pandemic and get to the important work. Speaking of calling on people to do better, more than 100 former and current prosecutors and law enforcement officials are calling on President Biden to prioritize criminal justice reform and fulfill his campaign promise to form a task force evaluating how criminal cases are prosecuted in the U.S. They're hoping for policy changes. Those could include ending cash bail and declining to prosecute smaller crimes in order to address racial inequality, persistent poverty, and over-incarceration. In response to this, Vice President Kamala Harris said, "You want to send fewer people to prison? You can't. Locking people up is my first Horcrux." Busing criminals to prison might be an issue, though, since there aren't even enough bus drivers for school buses. Bus drivers are in such short supply that some schools are offering to pay parents to drive their kids to school. Schools are having a hard time finding drivers despite having an abnormally large amount of money due to the pandemic stimulus funds. Gee, I wonder why no one wants to take a job where you have to deal with screaming kids throwing wads of chewed bubble gum at the back of your head while singing about how you fart and you cuss and you stink up the bus. Frankly, I'm happy about this policy because I never trusted school bus drivers in the first place. What do they do all day between taking the kids to school and dropping them off at home? Do you know? Does anyone know? I think there's a simple solution here. Schools should use all that excess money in their budget to hire Ubers to take kids to school. This way, students will get to class on time, and Uber drivers will get a taste of their own medicine, being forced to listen to a stranger talk non-stop about a hobby they have no interest in. Enjoy learning about every single Pokemon in existence, Michael. Maybe this will make you think twice before reading your folk song lyrics to someone while they're trying to get to the airport. And when we come back from the break, find out which NFL team is requiring its fans to be vaccinated. Welcome back. Nevada Governor Steve Sisolak announced that large event operators will be allowed to opt out of the state's mask requirements if they can verify that attendees are fully vaccinated against COVID-19. And NFL team, the Las Vegas Raiders, announced fans will need to be vaccinated in order to attend home games. That's outrageous. When did the Raiders move to Las Vegas? By not having to wear a mask, not only will it make it easier for fans to enjoy the game, but it'll also make it easier to identify the Raiders fans who throw half-empty cups of Miller Lite at each other. Of course, many Raiders fans will still choose to wear masks to games because Raiders fans are the juggalos of the NFL. Some people are trying to get around these vaccine mandates by purchasing fake vaccination cards, like a Miami Beach couple who got arrested in Hawaii. They were caught when they showed vaccination cards for their children who were too young to be vaccinated. That's like trying to impersonate an FBI agent and getting caught because your disguise was a female body inspector t-shirt. What? This uniform is standard issue. Authorities are also cracking down on people selling fake vaccination cards, like a Chicago pharmacist who was arrested for selling authentic CDC COVID vaccination cards to people who were unvaccinated. Which is unfair, since fake COVID cards are way less harmful than other things people usually pay pharmacists to fake a prescription for. Speaking of doctors getting in trouble over COVID, Tennessee's former top vaccine official, Dr. Michelle Fiscus, claimed a dog muzzle was mailed to her house as an intimidation tactic. But an investigation into the incident concluded that the muzzle sent to Fiscus was bought with a credit card in her name. Last month, Fiscus alleged that she was terminated from her position because Republican lawmakers were upset about the health department's efforts to influence teenagers to get the COVID-19 vaccine, even without their parents' permission. In response, the Tennessee Health Department stated that Fiscus was fired for multiple conduct issues, including ineffective management and for attempting to channel state money into a nonprofit she founded. Fiscus denied sending the muzzle to herself, saying that the state's investigation didn't prove this. Sure, a credit card in her name was used to purchase the muzzle, and she admits that it was her credit card. But she claims the card was charged with an incorrect billing address to an Amazon account she didn't know existed using a temporary phone number in Washington state. We've got a real mystery on our hands here, gang. Ultimately, it boils down to this. Either Fiscus got caught doing something incredibly stupid after getting fired and is now in damage control mode trying to cover it up, or one of her detractors went to extraordinary lengths to try and intimidate her while also incriminating her. I know you think the first scenario is more likely, but I have my doubts. Because my neighbors recently saw me receive a package from Amazon containing a Blu-ray box set of all 7 seasons of Gilmore Girls and a Team Jess t-shirt. And I definitely didn't order that. No, I think Dr. Michelle Fiscus and myself are both victims of a nefarious conspiracy. Who's behind it? Bus drivers. That's what they're up to all day. So what do you think about the stories we covered this week? Let us know in the comments below. And remember, America Uncovered is supported mainly by viewers. Be sure to visit patreon.com/America Uncovered. Contribute $1 or more per episode. We rely on your support to help us keep making great episodes. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. Thanks for watching America Uncovered.